YouTubers, Jemai Cruz here with a quick video titled How to Overcome Love Addictions Using an Agate Stone. So, love obsessions and love addictions are the things that give us spellcasters a bad name. When people think about magic, they think about the people who are just incredibly obsessed with someone, out of their minds, freaking crazy. And there are a lot of people who, yes, have love addictions and, yes, love obsessions. Okay, and so what I'm going to do in this video, I'm going to explain to you the difference between a love obsession and a love addiction and actual love. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to help you overcome any type of obsessions or addictions you might have by using healing stones. So stay tuned. When I think about love addictions, I just think about one person, Norman Bates. You know, in the movie Psycho, this guy was fucking crazy. You know, he was a middle-aged man and he spent way too much time alone, and he lived in this creepy house, and he ran the Bates Motel, and he had his mom's corpse stuffed, and he had it hidden in the basement in his room, and then he went crazy and he got dressed in his mom's clothing, wearing her old lady granny dress and ratty wig, and he stabs women to death. I mean, he's fucking out of his mind crazy. Okay, and so a lot of people who suffer from obsessions or addictions aren't as crazy as Norman Bates. However, there's a lot of I don't want to say truth to this movie because it is kind of sensationalized, but I do want to explain to you what happens to people when they start to become obsessed or addicted to somebody, okay? And I went over addictions in my other videos, and I talked about spirits and how spirits take over the body and the soul, and they possess you, and they begin to change your instructions manual. They begin to change the proteins in your body, change the behaviors in your body, and then change the way your body's composition works and interacts with other people in itself. Okay, and so the one thing is that people don't only get addicted to spirits. They can also get addicted to emotions, and they can also get addicted to people. Okay, it happens because your body doesn't understand the difference between something that's imagined and something that is real. Okay, your body don't know the difference. Your body don't know the difference. Okay, and so what happens is if you have someone, and I'm going to use men here, I think men tend to be a little bit on the obsessed side than women, and please correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I'm just telling you from my personal experience what I found. And so what happens is that men, they have this desire or this longing for women, for a woman rather, and there's something inside of them that's disconnected, disjointed, all right? And so the fantasy is something that they indulge in. We all indulge in fantasies, but men tend to love to indulge in fantasies, whether it be porn or whether, they're indulging in a fantasy while they're masturbating. You know what I'm talking about. And so what happens is that the fantasy becomes addicted. You become addicted to the fantasy. Why? Because again, your body can't tell the difference between feelings that are real from those that are imagined. Okay, and so your body actually pumps out the same feel-good hormones. When you're actually making love, doing the physical act of making love, your body pumps out serotonin, vasopressin, it pumps out adrenaline, all kinds of stuff. Okay, and so when you get into your little fantasy world and you're masturbating and you're so enthralled in this fantasy, your body starts to pump out those feel-good hormones as if you're actually engaged in a physical act. Okay. And so, like, what happens is your body gets addicted to the fantasy. Your mind gets addicted to the fantasy. Your mind gets addicted to the hormones that it produces. Remember, I told you every feeling has a chemical reaction. Every chemical action has a feeling. And so your mind gets addicted to it. And then you're like a crackhead. You got to get your fix. You got to indulge in the fantasy. You can't live without indulging in this fantasy. You have to indulge in it. It becomes a part of your lifestyle. Okay? And so you get addicted to the emotions. You get addicted to the thoughts. You get addicted to the fantasy. Okay? And so with any fantasy, with any type of drug use, there's this thing where you have to do more to get the same high. You start doing drugs, you take a little bit of drugs, you get high. But the next time that you do drugs, you're going to have to take a hell of a lot more drugs to get the same high. The same thing with a fantasy. You got to keep it going, and you got to keep it going further and further and further, because you have to keep getting those emotions to emit those feel-good hormones. And so what happens? Reality. Reality hits you, and you realize the person that you've been fantasizing about, the person that you are so madly in love with, doesn't want you. And it gets even worse when you find out that they're repulsed by you. Okay, they're repulsed by you because you've been, stalking them on Facebook. You've been sending them all types of love letters. You've been calling them. You've been doing all types of stuff, and none of that stuff is going to help you in any of your love endeavors. It's going to turn somebody off. You are a stalker. You are someone who is addicted to a fantasy. You're addicted to a fantasy that will never come true. It's an illusion. Okay, it's an illusion. But what's happened is the fantasy has tricked you into believing that it's true. All right? And so you flip out. You go crazy. You go crazy, and then it comes to a point where you have to have that woman or die. You have to have that man or die. There's something inside of you where is, like a drug addict getting his fix, you got to have it. It's a life or death situation. Okay, and so Norman Bates kind of went with this. Norman Bates kind of went through this in Psycho, where he was enthralled in fantasy. He was enthralled in a fantasy, and then when he realized that it was just a fantasy, it wasn't real. He goes off and he kills this poor woman in a hotel room. So that's the whole concept of love addictions and love obsessions. And there's a lot of people who come to me and tell me, oh, you might Cruz, I love this person. I email them every day. I send them letters every day. I drive by their house. I have this whole shrine and dedication to them. And it's not funny. I'm not laughing to make fun of these people. I'm just saying is that people are just so enthralled in fantasy that they don't understand the reality of it. And the reality of it is that you have to wane yourself off of this, because you can be stuck in la la land for the rest of your life. Yamai Cruz, I was with this guy for 3 or 4 years, and we have been going through a rough patch, and he moved out, and I don't know what happened. Okay, now that's different. That's an actual physical relationship. That's an actual physical relationship. And then I'll ask that person, well, how long have you been separated? They might tell me, well, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, or a couple of weeks. Okay, and it's like, okay, well, I understand that could be love there, and they're going through a rough patch. Okay, they're probably going through something. There was something that happened in relationship, some kind of negative energy that erupted, and it causes them to split apart. It happens. It happens in relationships. So that's not a big deal. That's love. That's something we can work with. But when somebody comes to me and they tell me that, they're living in their mama's basement, and they done got a job, and they're 500 pounds, and, they can't find a job because they're too fat, and then they want me to go ahead and do a love spell on someone who looks like Halle Berry, they're fucking crazy. They have a love obsession, they have an addiction, and people are not going to like what I have to say, but these type of people are the people who give love spells and spell casting, and people who do magic a bad name, because they're fucking crazy, and they want us to indulge with them. They want us to live in their own crazy fucked up world, and I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. Now, if you got real problems, yeah, come to me, I'll help you with real problems. But people come to me and they're Norman Bates, get out of here. You need to go. Okay, so what can you do? If you're serious about changing and you're serious about really finding love in the world of reality, what can you do to help yourself? And what you can do is you can start working with healing stones. I go over cleansing a lot in my other videos. I'm not going to do it here. If you want to do that, go watch my other videos. But what I want you to start doing is really focusing on breaking the fantasy. Okay, and so any type of addiction, especially if you're addicted to thoughts and emotions, you have to starve it out. All right, you have to starve it out. Whenever you hear or feel those thoughts taking over, you're going to have to shift your thoughts into something that's positive. Okay. And then the other thing that you're going to have to do is that you're going to have to dispel a great deal of negative energy. What I find what happens with people who have love addictions or obsessions, they have a great deal of suppressed sexual energy. And I talk about this again in other videos when I say when you start to get involved in love, your heart opens up and everything comes out, both the good and bad. Okay, and so what you have to do is you have to begin to rebalance yourself, recalibrate yourself by dispelling negative energy. And then once you dispel the negative energy, then from there you're going to be able to fill yourself up with loving energy. Who have love obsessions or love addictions are suffering. They have a sickness and they have to heal from the sickness. And so yes, if you come to me and you say, Maya Cruz, I want to heal, well, that I can help you with. If you're serious about healing, then you can undergo the magical process and start to heal. And this way you can begin to create a life and actually find real love, find someone who you can physically be with. And so the first thing that we have to understand is that magic is a process. And so in dealing with any type of mental or personality disorders or mental illnesses, however you want to diagnose it, we must first understand the problem, okay? And so we have to understand that you got to rewire and restructure the mind. This is a very painful and long and arduous process. All right, I'm not even gonna lie to you. It's the same as detoxing from any type of drugs. It's as an addict, you have to detox from those thoughts and all those emotions you've been addicted to for years. Okay, and so what I'm going to do now is give you a couple of quick tips on how you can overcome your love addiction. The first thing that you want to do is you want to surrender. The number one rule to overcoming a love addiction is to let it go. You can start by understanding that the emotions that you feel are inside of you. You made the mistake of attaching them to someone else. Start to ground yourself. Stay in tune with reality and what is real. You can start by working on your base chakra. You can also work with a black tourmaline stone. Start detoxing. You might feel a great deal of anger and resentment toward the other person. You can minimize this anger by creating some anger be gone oil. And so what you can do is you can make a tincture, a half of tablespoon of chamomile, a quarter of a tablespoon of violet, and a quarter of a tablespoon of sandalwood. And so you can add this to your bath, or you can dab a few drops on your skin. Of course, before you take any herbs or rub anything on your skin, please be sure to consult with your doctor. All right. And then you can also lastly use a blue agate stone to minimize anger. You can do this by placing the blue agate stone on your throat chakra, which is here. And you can do this, and this should help, help with the healing process and help you overcome love addictions. All right. And so with that said, I'm going to go ahead and conclude this video. If you want to read sorry about the language, guys, but I was really passionate about some of the requests I get from people. I didn't mean to offend anybody, but it is what it is at this point. So if you want to read the full article, please go to my website, clairvoyantmagic.com, and read the full article. If you want to get more great videos, you're more than welcome to subscribe and get some more great videos. If you want more great free stuff, some freebies, like free spells and free books, you can sign on to my list at clairvoyantmagic.com. Okay, and so I'm your Maya Cruz, and again, I'm so happy that you've tuned in and watched my videos. And with that said, I'm out of here. Bye.